Barbara, Clay, anyone hear us out there?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And we got Ruth, can you hear us? Barbara, Clay, anyone hear us out there?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that they're hearing us?
Yes.
You can hear us, we just can't hear you. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Sorry for the delay, but we obviously don't want to start without Barbara, but we also need her for a quorum. Okay. So,
No, I think we have a quorum. Yeah.
we do. I was saying we need Barbara. Yeah. Okay. So, first thing I'd like to do, welcome everyone, and ask if there's anything that needs to be added to our agenda. You all have it in front of you at this time. Yeah. Okay. So. If not, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the agenda. Be added to our agenda. You all have it in front of you at this time. Emily, in a second. If not, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the. Okay, all in favor? Sorry. Aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Okay, agenda is approved. And then I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda consisting of the August 18th work session meeting minutes and the July 28th regular meeting minutes, the current pending depositing gifts report and the statistical report as attached. Rest minutes and the July 28th regular meeting minutes, the current pending depositing gifts report and the statistical report. Second, as attached. All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? No. Okay. Great. So we are going to jump right into. Anybody here for public comment period? I don't see anyone. Okay, so we'll skip over that. Going to jump in, and can Clay or Ruth be heard to give a report for the Friends? See anyone? Okay, so we'll skip over that.
Yes, I will give it a try.
Ruth,
I'm getting a lot of feedback.
either one of you. Looks like you both have been trying to speak.
Is Great, asking the volume.
One of you. Looks like you.
The Friends did have our
Clay, you might
member
be.
only sale in August on the 28th, and we had a good
Ruth, you don't seem to be, but we cannot hear you at all. So you might be.
You can't hear me?
Well, we'll work on fixing that. We're going to skip over you guys and have y'all. You can hear us, is my understanding. Okay, so we're going to skip over the Friends report and jump right into Susan's report for the foundation. Fixing that, we're going to skip over
Thank you, sir.
you guys and have y'all. You can hear us.
You heard me speak about.
So we're going to skip over the Friends report and jump right into Susan's report for the foundation.
Welcome project. We are going to be sending out almost 3,000 postcards the first week of October. The artwork is read of Emily, and I will ask her to pass that around. Shannon Wright is a gifted artist that worked with us on the concept of a welcoming library, highlighting diversity and access, and she did a lovely job. The point of this postcard is to establish the library as an important member and resource for the community. The postcards will go to individuals who have moved within the past year. And the postcards are going to be focused by branch. So we've chosen all addresses within 1.5 mile diameter of each. So they'll get a focus postcard with the address of their closest RPL branch library and their phone number. And ultimately, the goal is to educate the Richmond community about the importance of the library and to drive those connections with the library. Does anybody have any questions or comments about that project? If you have any new neighbors and you see those postcards, you might want to artfully comment upon them. Welcome. Any questions or comments? Any comments on that? Any neighbors? Okay.
So move within what time of the year?
So this will be an annual effort.
Just a couple to give to the newish neighbors, but they were just so move within.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you. Absolutely. So this will be an annual effort. The foundation has been approved for the Commonwealth of Virginia campaign, which is the annual charity drive for employees of the Commonwealth of Virginia. So if you are a state employee or have friends and family who are, please consider asking them to support the Richmond Public Library during the campaign. Our CBC code is 2012-99. And additional information and the links will be available on the foundation homepage, and a promotional So the campaign kicks off next Tuesday, the 28th. The foundation is excited to welcome our newest board member, Felix Shapiro, who is also on the Friends Board. So we're really excited to welcome such a strong library advocate to the town. And then the foundation would like to cordially invite everyone to the Urban Fiction Experience, which is a program that will be held this Saturday in the Gilman from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. The program highlights urban fiction at its finest, with New York Times bestselling author Nikki Turner and Richmond poet laureate Roscoe Burnhams, as well as other notable urban fiction authors. If anyone is interested in the specific schedule, please let me know. I'm happy to share that with Roscoe Burnhams, as well as other notable urban fiction authors. And then finally, the foundation is also pleased to announce a $10,000 grant award to the RVA Reads program from the Robbins Foundation. So we're grateful to the Robbins Foundation for their continued $10,000 grant award to the RVA Reads program.
Okay, thank you, Susan. Any questions?
Grateful to the Robbins Foundation.
Okay, Scott, we'll jump into your report for administration.
All right. I want to mention we've added an article to the board report that's in front of you. It's one that was published all right, this weekend. I want to mention Janet brought it to my attention. It was an article on well, one of them is, it's an article on the history of the library. So there's Circulation Chronicles that was done by Harry Colatz this weekend, and it just kind of highlights our early founding and segregation issues with the library in the beginning. And there's another article that one of our staff wrote an in-depth research piece that appeared in Libraries and Cultures at University Press, and it is a fairly extensive research on that whole issue. I'm going to ask if I can have permission to share that with you from her, but it's very well done. And it really details kind of the issues of the early founding of the library and through about 1947 when the library began to be desegregated. So, kind of uncovering our past in new ways. So this article will get you going, but I'll try and distribute that full article, which is based on uncovering our past in new ways. This also want to mention we've updated the org chart. There's a copy of that in there, and that's for our discussion later. If you can take a look at it, and if you have questions, we can talk about that at that time. I do want to let you know that 100% of our staff are vaccinated. I'm very proud to say that we have 100% vaccination over at the library, and we don't have anybody who has accommodation or anything like that. 100% of our staff are vaccinated. We're doing very well. And protocols, the mitigation protocols we've been practicing with encouraging people to wear masks and be vaccinated is working pretty well. So, and protocols, the mitigation protocols we've been practicing. That is my report. Did anybody have any questions about anything on the consent agenda or numbers?
I have a question about the article, the Circulation Chronicles. That nice photograph. Do you have others showing the construction process article?
I'm not, that one's from the Valentine, so that's not even our picture. So I'd be curious to see what they have, because I've never seen that picture before. I've seen a couple of newspaper pictures, and when we were trying to answer some questions during the master planning process, I couldn't find anything to verify that. So I'd really love to see what they have.
Well, you know, architects take a lot of pictures.
Yeah.
There must be a stash somewhere.
One would think, and that's kind of been our process. One of the things we've been working on for the 100-year anniversary is we have some students going through all of our, we have stuff everywhere. So annual reports, board minutes, newsletters, city reports. We're trying to pull all those together, preserve them, digitize them. The Friends newsletters, we have those kind of digitized. So we're trying to pull everything together in one space and then seeing what we have and what we can do with it is kind of
And that
digitized.
vertical file too,
The
they're
Friends
searching in there.
newsletters.
The vertical file,
Oh, we haven't gotten into that.
it could be there.
It could be there. We'll look in there. I think I have looked there, but I don't know that, I don't recall seeing that specifically. Do we want to go back and see if we can hear Ruth or Clay? I think we addressed the volume. Do we want to try? Ruth, can you see if you can speak and we can hear you?
Okay, I'll give it a try.
Test 1, 2.
Test 1, 2. I don't think you can hear me.
We'll keep going and let,
Pardon?
Can you hear me? Without an echo?
Huh.
okay, so you guys aren't doing anything wrong, we just can't hear you,
Still the same with me.
here.
Can you hear me at all? No? Okay.
Would that fix it?
Well, we still have to set up something for us to play the audio from the TV out of. I'm not sure we can do that.
Yeah, if not, can we,
Can you share the
I
screen?
was gonna
of
say,
the live?
can we do this just to laptop or something and let it,
Or share the screen of the with the live?
see if we can get enough volume on something else. While they're working on that, I'm gonna mention, the circulation numbers. Scott said, if anybody has questions about, some of the statistics and things in there. And, I was going through them, a couple days ago. I was actually, I think it shows that we have made a lot of progress back, I guess. I was pleased to see how high they were in some places, particularly, Belmont's numbers are bouncing up and back with where they were back in 19. The East End has done well, the similar kinds of things. Skinner Park is not too far off that. Maine is pretty solid there. North Avenue is a little below. West End is higher, and Westover Hills is higher. So we seem to be getting people back. The door counts are also higher. If you look at the door counts across the board, they're pretty good. But we do seem to be getting circulation picking up again. I think people are starting to come back in, feel comfortable, relying upon the library, and so on. I just sort of wanted to mention this because I think this tells you sort of which branches are really busy, which ones are a little less busy, both the door count and the circulation. And as we talk about our situation on staffing, I just think it's important to know this. I don't think this necessarily changes what we do or don't do, but I think Scott's going to talk about how his staff is managing to keep things going and so on. To me, the clustering that we're going to be talking about a little bit is reflected in the combination of these branches. You look at the numbers. So, like I said, I think our staff has done a nice job of getting people back in, comfortable, having the hours open for that. I'm going to jump in to the chairman report since we're...
Could I suggest, could Ruth email one of us with her report or text us? Oh.
Okay, so what can...
See, there's a big delay there.
If you have a link to the meeting? I'm live streaming the meeting. No, I'd like to have the link to the actual Zoom meeting to join.
Oh,
I don't have that on my phone.
I can probably get to that.
Would that, I mean, there would be a delay, but I
Okay, we're still working.
be able to hear.
Let's see. Jonna sent the link out, didn't she, with that or not?
Yeah, I think so.
Could I just make one quick note about the Wi-Fi? Something I noticed, there's a note that Broad Rock, East End, North Avenue had a glitch so that those Wi-Fi numbers weren't captured. But I noticed Belmont, West End, and Westover Hills
Yes.
are also dramatically lower. So I just wanted, if we're keeping these stats for posterity or for
They're
future
dramatically
statistical
lower
uses,
compared to what?
compared
Right.
to last month.
I
Belmont
did
went
notice,
down
yeah.
from 310 to 18, so I think we may want to bookmark those too, just for
We can asterisk those. What I believe happened is we've replaced routers and switches and things at those locations, and I think possibly the data was lost when we did that action. So I'm hoping in the next month or two, once we complete that project, the statistics will return to normal. So we can asterisk it if that. Yeah, it happens.
Okay, so we're still working on enough volume on something to hear Clay and Ruth?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just jump in. From the chairman's perspective, I think the three things I wanted to cover maybe. The first, the three-board meeting with the foundation and friends has been put off again. It's still put off while we wait for the master plan to be at a level that we think we can work with. And we'll come back around on that after Janet talks a little bit about, and her rest of her team talk about the facilities, and the facilities committee talks about the plan there. One thing I wanted to talk about is, we had planned today to cover the strategic plan. And I think I wrote, everyone should have got an email from me that mentioned that that's getting put off as far as approval. Nothing has changed versus what we did back in July on that. It's just that the staff here is taking a little longer to get that completed and in a form that we can approve, because they are just really stretched just keeping branches open right now. So we're just going to have to let that ride for a little bit longer. It doesn't need any more input from us. It's not like they're waiting for us for anything. It's just something we have to accept a little bit there. And then the third thing, we're going to talk about finances. Scott's going to talk a little bit about this and how we're keeping branches open. That the budget is tight, but beyond the budget being tight, we're down, 9% year over year?
Yeah, the
roughly?
operations budget took a 9% cut in 20 and was carried over into 21.
Yeah.
And then we have 25% of our authorized positions just frozen.
And that's the big issue we're dealing with. 25% of our positions being frozen becomes particularly a problem when those positions open up.
Right.
We can't fill those.
Right.
And we've had multiple, you'll talk about that as we get into some of this, multiple people leave. So our biggest thing today, after we finish the rest of these committee reports and pulling data from those committee reports, is to figure out what we think we need to do as far as hours, branches, political contacts, what we do to try to rectify the situation, both short-term and long-term, I think. Okay? So that's what we're going to try to get done. I'm going to throw this over. We don't have Garrett with us, so who is doing finance? Scott, is that you?
Yeah, I can chime in on that.
Okay.
We're still in the beginning of a budget year. We've made it through the first quarter. Those reports will be coming out. The ARPA funding is the big discussion going on right now. That the council has had discussions on it. They came up with $355 million of needs. The mayor's put forward his plan for the ARPA funding. What they like to do is crosswalk them to see where they have similar needs, similar requests, and they're assessing that. They've opened up another survey yesterday or today. They're doing an online survey, and then they have 3 public meetings through the Public Information and Engagement Office, which is a new office created this year. So they're gathering more input from the community, and then they'll make an assessment on where they'll go. So I don't know if any of you saw it, the lion's share of the funding, about $78 million, will go to Parks and Rec to help. It'll build some community centers, it'll bring some parks, improve some parks, address some of their long-term needs. They haven't received any infrastructure requests like that for a long time. So that's where a lot of the funding is going. They have some funding also being for unsheltered services and eviction and those sorts of things. So a lot of one-time funding is going for that. So we'll see where that initially goes. One of the questions, unfortunately, we didn't have any place we didn't have anything in there, but we didn't really have anything to ask for if it was a big CIP request, because we don't have a number that we can put out there, or a plan that we can put out there that says this is what we need and this is how much it'll cost. Parks and Rec has a lot of those. They have a James River master plan. They have lots of plans in place, and so they were able to produce those and kind of advocate for them. So it's great for them. It's also great for us, because what that will do is if they can do those projects, that will move projects out of the CIP and open up room for us in the CIP. So once we can complete this master plan for Maine, that would get a place in there. So I see it as optimistic, and we just have our work cut out for us. Once we get that plan, then we just advocate for it and keep moving forward.
Okay. Looks like you now have the Friends.
If it's all right with Ruth, I can read the report that she sent.
I think I might have results with this,
Okay.
if you'd like her to try.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
That's that delay.
There's
Yes.
a little bit of a delay. Can you hear okay?
Mm-hmm. Kind of. Ruth, do you want to try and read your report?
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you a little bit, yep.
Okay, well, the report was shared by Clay in the chat. Friends did have our book sale, members only, by appointment only, and we had good attendance, not full, but good attendance. And we gained 30 or more memberships and renewals.
Oh, it's echoing now.
You know, I'm going to suggest that we just go ahead and read this for Ruth, because I think everyone's having this struggling a little bit. Okay, so Ruth, wave or something if I get anything wrong reading this right now, okay? The first bullet from Ruth is the Friends held a members-only book sale on the 28th of August. They switched to a by-appointment-only approach. That system, they went to about a week before the sale because of the COVID statistics changing. Sale was very busy early in the day. They had 30 plus new and renewing memberships, and proceeds from the sale also brought the Friends back into the black for the time being. I'm glad to see that. We're determined to hold our fall book sale November 5th and 6th in some form. They've discussed doing an expanded by appointment only sale open to everyone, but with some expanded member only sale time as well. We will hold our annual meeting Friday evening of the book sale, and not going to have a speaker this time. Planning a more casual event and report to the membership at a simple reception prior to the Friday evening sale time, which will coincide with First Friday's evening. This time, there will be no fall book drive. You sure that's it? Anything else that, we're good? Okay. I hope no one has any questions. But it's not the easiest to do that. Okay, so let's move on. I think Scott's covered the finance fairly well. We'll see a little more as we get into the next, next month's meeting. We have a little run on the quarterly numbers. So Janet, we're going to throw facility over to you for talk about facilities a little bit.
All right, on September 8th, we had a Zoom presentation of what Steinberg Hart has done. And I was in a hotel with terrible connection, and I kept dropping out, and I thought, well, I'm missing all the details of this plan. And then later on I found out there weren't any details. So And if I talk about it too long, I get really kind of annoyed. So it was surprising to me that a plan could raise more questions than it answered. So, for example, the plan indicated that the entrance would be the old entrance, but gave absolutely no details on how that would work. So there was just a lot of strange missing pieces. And after the presentation was over, I found out that others agreed with me. And so Scott called me and Gail and Dexter and Susan and a couple of other people to talk about where do we go from here. Because this plan is not anything you could present to the public. So we vented our emotions on what they had done, and Scott did a really nice write-up, very diplomatic. And I assume you've given that to Steinberg Park.
So what we did was we had a discussion. We talked about the things we liked, the things we didn't like, and what I did what we call a SWOT analysis, so strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats with the plan. We put it together in a list, and I sent it to them and said, hey, here's where we're at with this, and we'd like you to take a look at it. They've had that. I sent that to them Friday. They've responded with wanting to get a call together with Dexter and myself to discuss kind of where they're at and see what the next steps are. What I would like them to do is have them send a person on site with some of the folks that are here, and we look at the drawings together and we go through them like that. I believe when we tried to do this virtually, I think many things were lost, and I think they have some probably great ideas. They did not come across electronically and did not seem to be prepared in a way that we could understand or get behind them. So I think that's a piece that would happen. I think that would fix a lot, would go a long way towards helping us. So that's one thing I'm going to pitch them. We're also going to have a discussion about what deliverables are and make sure that we're clear on the contract, because they may think they've delivered the product to us, but it's not acceptable to us at this point. So we need to have confirm that those deliverables are correct and that we're not paying extra for things that we haven't already received. So that'll be a discussion. I don't foresee a problem with that, but someone recommended that we bring clarity to that issue around this. So I thought that was a good suggestion. So it's going to take a little more time. I believe I hate to say we've waited this long, but let's go this extra effort. Let's be patient, and I think we'll come out of this with a product that will be what we're looking for and achieve our ends. Gail, do you want to?
Just one thought. One kind of concern of mine now is, based on what we saw, is what's the appropriate communication to the foundation and the Friends at this point? I'm thinking maybe even there were so many kind of surprises for me that I think so we don't waste their time as well when we get the finished product, as soon as possible. A checklist of entrance, roof, Second Street side, parking, kind of, does this make sense or not? So I don't know. I just think there are a few major things that are going to make a dramatic impact on how they move forward. I don't want to present something to the foundation, for instance, and have them, are you joking? Right. That kind of thing. So they're not going to want to, at some point, but we'll have to declare deliverables, and we don't want to have to pay extra for lots of renovations. So I think we need to communicate in some fashion about some of the major elements that they're proposing, unless they feel that they can start over again. It was, as Janet said, a surprise in many ways.
Right. I think we brought up a lot of things in the community meetings and the surveys and the feedback, and I don't know if it was just captured or conveyed the way we'd expected. So I think we have an opportunity to have that discussion with them. We've given them the feedback. They're definitely going to listen to that feedback, and I'm confident they'll come back with something that will be what we're looking for. So just more communication. I think we'll have those deliverables and then be able to have those discussions because they want to make sure that this building gets built too. So they want to do those steps to make sure we have what we need and what we want.
Right. It's to their benefit, certainly. to
That's
give us
right.
a good product.
Any other questions on that? Oh, I can give you an update. Hull Street Branch Library, they're still, remember the car crashed into the building August of 20? That is still under construction. Some stone has arrived, so they have to get the stone. This is going to be about an 18-month project to make that repair. It's fairly significant damage. And again, you can't get materials, you can't get workers. It's hard to get projects off the ground, so that's why this has taken so long. So they've been without a meeting room now for that long. You know, and they've been open, but, you know, we haven't had really functions in the library because we can't. So hopefully in January, we're all in a better place, and the news we're hearing that maybe this delta's going down, we'll be in a better place in January to be able to start having expansion of programs and meetings. But for now, it's still under construction, and they're hoping to be done in January. If y'all were in town last Thursday and you were in the fan and got to see 3.5 inches of rain in 1 hour, I don't know how many of you had backups, but we had a backup here again. So we were vacuuming up the basement again. Yep. Did you have a backup?
Soaked. Major flood in our basement, yeah, in the fan.
And it just comes up the storm sewer. Yep.
Well, I don't know about that.
Well, ours came up.
Get it in from the side to sometimes.
Yeah, ours was.
They say it was a 500-year event. So I don't know. This is This is like the third or fourth 500-year event I've seen since I've been in the library in the basement. So, yeah, and you know, that's great you bring that up because that book really talks about those things. And as we were downstairs vacuuming it up, I was feeling it like, again, the common book hits the target again. We had Evicted talking about all of the eviction problem. We had one person no vote last year. And now we have Rising. And look at all the things that have happened just this summer. The heat, the fires, the hurricanes. It's, it's remarkable. So.
Okay, so from
That's all I have for facilities.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no, I was going to say, I'm glad that things are moving along on Hall Street, even if it's at a
it's
relatively slow pace.
Yeah.
Your team's doing a good job of keeping things running there without, regardless of the fact that that's happening. I mean, we've been able to do the basics over there.
I've got one more thing. You recall we're doing that stormwater project at Broad Rock, West End, and North Avenue. So they will begin some of the landscaping this fall. So in October, November, which is great. I mean, they had kind of planned to start in August, which wasn't ideal because you try and plant things in August, they're just going to go. But there's some really fabulous plans for stormwater mitigation, Bayside Gardens. They will be able to really capture and slow 100% of the water coming off those building sites, and you'll be able to see it as a demonstration. So that will, hopefully by the end of the year, that project will be complete, so you'll be able to see that. That's a partnership with James River Association, DPU, RVA, H2O, and the library. And it started at Westover Hills. That was kind of the catalyst project that kicked this off. And James River Association would like to continue it. They see an opportunity in the East End because that's also in the watershed. So there might be DEQ dollars to do things at other branches that we haven't been able to do at the city. So,
excellent. Okay, I said I know it's a little disappointing on the master plan, but it really does seem that Scott and the facilities committee doing a good job of trying to get them back on it. Dexter from the CIP of getting KEI, Steinberg Hart on track with something that we can use. Right now, there's not enough in there for the foundation to say we're going to charge for, we're going to do fundraising based upon this. It's just lacking in some fundamentals there that we're talking about.
I'm really thankful for the city because Dexter and their group has always reminded the architects, hey, you got to deliver this. And I think Gail and Janet saw that too. Then it was refreshing for him to remind them, look, this has got to get done and it needs to be done this way. So we're not just stringing this along. So the city's been very helpful in this process.
Good.
And they've held out back 50% of the
Right.
the checks. So.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
that's the
We
important.
have some leverage.
Yeah.
Okay, Emily, anything you'd like to cover on governance? It was, no?
No.
Okay.
that's my governance.
So we'll go ahead and move right on to unfinished business, and the strategic plan, we're just tabling that for till next month's meeting, nothing we do on that right now. And I'm going to get Scott to talk through on our new business, the hours, closures, access, staffing issues, whatever we want to, how we want to describe it. If you sort of go through where we are as far as the discussions you and I've had a little bit too on that, as far as the number of people that work,
Well,
takes to run branches, et cetera, a little bit, what we're doing.
in the report, you'll see the org chart, and it details all the positions that we have, the positions that are open, the positions that are, the positions that are vacant, and the positions that are unfunded. So yellow positions are vacant and funded, red positions are vacant and unfunded, but all of the positions on here are all positions we need. One of the questions we get is, well, how many people do you need to open a branch? Well, you need some basic numbers on the ground to maintain basic service at a branch. 3 is about the minimum, because if you have some sort of life safety health issue, you've got to be able to address that issue and also maintain the building. But that's the bare minimum. People need to be able to go to lunch or go to the doctor or take a vacation. So 3, ideally 4 in the building at all times. That way you can cover things. And then if you want to do more than just open the door and maintain basic library service, you need even more than that. Ideally, library systems that are running robust branches have 7 FTEs. So that in our scheme, you'd have a branch manager, you'd have a librarian, often that's your youth services person who's an MLS librarian leading that effort, and then you have 3 paraprofessionals. You have kind of we call them tech seniors. They're kind of the sergeant of the branch and help run and organize, and then you have 2 full-time technicians. So that would be 5 FTEs. And then best practice is to have 4 part-time people in addition to those 4 full-time people. So now you have everything backstopped and covered. So you can cover about 60 hours a week pretty fully. Janet's a branch manager. She knows these metrics. Please correct me or let me know if you agree, disagree. But those are kind of, if you're going to run a library, provide computer service, book service,
Get books back on the shelf.
get books back on the shelf, initiate programs for all the different groups you're trying to serve, seniors, children, adults, do outreach to the community. A library system with 7 FTEs at a branch, they can cover their hours and they can cover any shortfalls that they have. Right now, we're operating at about 5 to 4 FTEs at our locations, and that's including the managers. So we are really kind of in crisis mode right now. And when the budget came out and you all advocated hard to restore funding to 2019 levels, they were not able to do that. So this is the lot that we have right now. So 25% of our positions are frozen. So we have 67 positions authorized of the 89.5 that we have. If we were able to fill all those positions, we could probably achieve that model that I just described for you at the branches. At Maine, we need more FTEs in place because, again, largest building, we have 4 service desks in this building, largest collection, most programs going on. We do have support staff in and around the building that are contractors like housekeeping and security, which helps maintain the space, but still you need that level of people if you're going to run this location 60 hours a week. And that would be 6 days a week, or when we were at high capacity, we could go 7 days a week with a complement like that. So if we were fully staffed, I believe we could run 7 days a week at this location and run our services at our branches. Right now, we're not there. I have to tell you, though, that staff have been absolutely amazing during this crisis. They have stepped up to the plate. They have gone places and worked, have librarians working as paraprofessionals, have paraprofessionals holding down the ship. I mean, Our Belmont branch has been shorthanded since June. North Avenue, you'll notice all of their staff has resigned. I have one branch manager there, so we're backfilling with staff from all over the system. Hull Street is now down to 2.5 FTEs from 4 FTEs. So we have staff really all hands on deck. Clay, you'll see, isn't even in the room because he's at North Avenue today covering that location with staff that are there. But we're really kind of at a breaking point. I mean, we are now open, all of our locations are open 6 days a week, 47 hours a week. That's 9 to 6 Monday through Friday and 9 to 5 on Saturday. I don't know when, we'll be able to get back to other hours. I'm hopeful that, we get through this pandemic, Delta gives us a break, and we can start filling our positions. We can start moving funded positions through. We have, as you can see, a couple were approved in my report that we can go forward with, and I have others that I'm justifying to city administration to fill. And subsequently, I've had about 2 more positions I have to push up to them. So there's lots of different strategies. Bill and I have talked about things, sometimes you're like, well, we close a branch. When we were going through construction, and Clay can attest to this, we had a branch that was, we were understaffed when I first got here in 16. We also had shortages, we didn't have the funding, and so we had a branch closed due to construction. We would have liked to have opened a branch, but thankfully it was under construction and we could take those staff and share them with other people while we were building that branch. And then when that branch opened up, we could put those people back in place. And as we did that, we restored our funding and were able to kind of assume normal operations. We don't have that luxury right now. I don't have a branch under construction where I can farm people out. All we can do is share staff across the system, which is what we've been doing. So I explained this, I'm letting you know this because in the last month, we've had locations where we haven't had people to open the door. So we've had some delayed openings by sometimes 3 minutes here, sometimes an hour, sometimes a noon opening. We don't like that because, it's not that our staff doesn't want to do the work. We want to be open. It's just we are at a point where we can hardly be open because we don't have just physically the staff to do it. So some of the other steps we've taken is we've not expanded our adult programming. We were hopeful in the fall that we could get adult programming and children's programming off, but Delta has put a change to that for us. So we have an expanded adult program and we don't have plans to expand it. We're going to do the programs that we have now, the urban fiction event, the Gelman concerts, Rising, and Read Up are kind of our big adult programs. We have some other little ones that we can do, but we're really just kind of in crisis mode in terms of keeping branches open, providing those basic levels of service with checking out books and access to computers and basic services. So that's kind of where we're at. I've been strategizing with our branch managers to find solutions, and one of them that we've come up with is kind of pairing branches together to share the workload, and so that's a tactic we're going to try in the next month to address this issue. So, like a West End and a North Avenue and a Ginter Park would come together to cover the hours at those 3 locations. Westover Hills and Hull Street would work together. Broad Rock would help out, and then Maine would backstop a lot of these. But staff are going to have to go and work in places that they don't necessarily work, and they're very flexible and they've been very amenable to doing that. And I'm hopeful that we can start going through this in the next month and we can get some positions filled, so that gives us a little bit more breathing room.
So if you grouped branches together as you described, how long can the system sustain that?
That's a good question.
I would think not very long.
Well, some of the ideas we've talked about are like to present to you, because who likes to come to somebody with a problem without a solution? So we wanted to come to you with solutions. So do we close 3 days? We talked about a SWOT analysis like that. So if we combine 2 branches, maybe both those branches come together and they cover the hours. They're open Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, then they're open Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And we tag team the branches. So there's an option.
That drives people crazy.
It does.
Yes.
When you do. funny hours.
And you know, I guess, Janet, just jump in for a second. We have a problem that in the short term, Scott's already working with the CAO and that office to try to get positions released, okay? At that point, we have to start doing the hiring process. So there's nothing that is going to open this up and just magically make it disappear in a month or 6 weeks. I mean, we're talking a couple of months before we would, I believe, before we'd see any major.
6 weeks until we hire some of those positions. And we have been backstopping with temps. The problems are the temp agencies can't supply us with people because they don't have people to supply. Again, we're suffering from the same thing that the whole our business world is suffering from is our wages are not as competitive as we'd like to see. We're trying to do better with that, but the temp company said, hey, look, we have people saying they're going to show up and do it, and they don't show up and ever take the test to get in the door.
If you don't know anybody who wants to work for 13 and a half an hour or something, we'll put them in touch with the temp agency.
Yeah, and we can get you in. So we can quickly do that. I'm sorry, Emily.
What is the hiring, you mentioned this a little bit, are you getting sufficient applicant pools for the positions that are open?
We do get applicant pools when we can post a position and get it. So we are getting applicants. We're not getting, it's taken us 2 months to try and get applicants through the temp agency because they just don't have people.
And Scott, we can't post for positions, these yellow positions, until they
have to be approved by city administration and
Right.
budget. And
So
that
we're still
process,
waiting for that.
yeah, and that process is improving. You know, we've got 2 positions through. I have 5 more in the pipeline. We're explaining and justifying because, you know, it is a pandemic. This is a crisis situation, and we're trying to make sure that our city's dollars are going to where the greatest need is. And hopefully this pandemic will end, but they don't know. And so that's always the big thing in everyone's mind.
Okay, so, and Chris and I talked about this a little bit. Oh, I'm sorry. Who was the
No, I just wondered, would it be worthwhile inviting Ellen Robertson to our next meeting, who represents this district?
Might be. We sort of need to think about how we want to approach this from an immediate, Scott's covering it for the next 2 months maybe, with the staff covering, stretching, and keeping things open, the sort of twinning the branches together, however you want to think of it. But we still have that fundamental problem, that we just don't have enough people to provide the level of service we'd like across the board. I mean, even if you get a few of these filled, we're not getting close to having 7 per branch available. And if you do the math on it, if you got 47 and a half hours a week, and you need 3 people minimum, you know, you can't run with fewer than 4 people. I mean, you have to have that 160 hours, man hours, to make the work to cover that. We're sort of in the spot that Scott and I talked, and I said, well, do we need to, we're going to have to reduce hours somewhere, okay? Seems to be. Now, maybe we can cover it. This was nice to hear today that Scott's team has come together and said, here's how we can cover it. And I think we try doing that, but we may have to look at reducing hours. So we come to some fundamental decisions with that. If we reduce hours, do we do them across the system and keep nice, consistent hours, which I think, Janet, you were saying you sort of don't like that, different hours, different branches.
Well, you might not have any choice, but it's just real confusing.
And I will tell you, Chris echoes you on that, because she asked me to mention that today. She thinks it's important. You know, we had closed when we had some problems back in the spring, early summer. And we all came together and said, no, you can't have certain branches closed because their staff's out and because their attendance is low, because that just doesn't look fair to people, okay? You know, if we're trying to make sure that everyone's treated equitably on this, we have to have the same availability across the system, okay? So, you know, I think we need to consider do we want to just struggle by and sort of punt this down the road a little bit and see where we are, how well that works? Do we want to be talking about reducing the hours across the board in the system? Do we want to look at closing certain branches completely for a period of time, or for something that gets the attention? And in doing this, we have some opportunities. We can, within the current program, change those hours a little bit. We don't need to be open at 9 o'clock every day. I think there's a lot of thought that if we're trimming our hours, maybe we need to also reallocate them. Not as many people are coming in, particularly once school started up here at 10 in the morning. Maybe we need to be open from 11 or noon until 8 or 9 at night. Maybe we need to have Sunday hours. We've always done that on a case-by-case basis. We've never had all the branches open. Well, not recently had all the branches open, but maybe some of them we adjust to be able to give those hours. I looked at it and said, well, do we cluster that, and do we say, okay, West End, Belmont are pretty close together. Do you close one of them? Do you look and say, okay, Westover Hills, Broad Rock, Hull Street, and Belmont all sort of cluster a little bit? It doesn't seem it because you're going across the river and on both sides of the river, but geographically it is a pretty quick run between some of those. Do you close 2 of those and keep 2 of those open? Do you take North Avenue and say, well, North Avenue and Ginner Park are not that far, so do you close Ginner Park and keep North Avenue open for a bit? I don't know that we are at the point of deciding on any of those things, and like I say, Trish's view is you can't do that. You got to have all the branches open, and Scott would probably agree with her about this. I wanted to throw it out today for discussion because I think that it's unfortunate we didn't get a lot of support from either the mayor or the city council. Looking at the money that's just come in, we're not getting a lot of support from them on the budgeting. We're till end of next June before we get any change in our budget. Okay, as it stands right now, at least. I think that our city council members and the mayor both need to recognize that we can't do everything without the funding for it. Okay, we're hitting a wall here where they're asking us to do a lot, and they're saying, but you've been so good about doing this. Last year you had a cut and you managed to do it, so we're going to continue that cut and we're going to expect you to continue managing it. I sort of feel like the very old bad story about the farmer who kept cutting his horse's food because he needed to get by with a little less money, and eventually the horse up and died on him and he was upset about it. Well, we're sort of in that. They keep starving us. We can't go along forever without being fed, with a diminishing amount of food at least. So do we need to think about, if we don't get the positions approved by the CAO within a period of time, did we tell him, if you can't get these to us, we are going to have to close some branches on an interim basis, and if we do that, how do we choose those branches? My personal preference is that we close some of the branches that I think may, rightly or wrongly, feel they have more political power in the city, because I think if you get them screaming, there's more likelihood of some type of response to it. And I don't know whether that's picking a West End of Belmont and Ginner Park, Westover Hills, that may have a higher income and a more active voter base, or whether you close ones where you have a citizenry that really needs it and is hurt more by it and therefore screams. I don't know. These are all thoughts that I've struggled with, and I just wanted to sort of throw them out, get you guys thinking about them, and I think short term, we need to have something that we say to the city. I don't think, whether we keep running this way for 60 days, just fine. I think we need to get a message out that if we don't get some help here, that we are going to have to make changes. And I think that's the only way it's worked in the past. I hate to say. It's, before my time on the board, but...
Well, I don't think it's not a matter, we don't want to close any branches.
Right.
We want to be open. We want to serve the city. We love to do this work. We love to serve our citizens. I always fear if you close things, it may not come back.
that
hate
risk.
that. And it's not a matter of we don't want to, it's that how can we do it? We want to do it, we want to be open, but I don't know how we can do it. And that's a concern. And we are working as hard as we can to manage that and being as flexible as possible. And I think that goes a long way.
One second, as Scott pointed out, he's saying working is hard, but we're still basically operating at the branches with the approach of you get access to the building and therefore you can use computers, et cetera, and you can check out books. But the programs that
Draw
people and that give us, try to keep us a little bit on par with our neighboring.
Or help us achieve our mission to inform, enrich, and empower. We can't do that when we're at a very basic level. We just can't.
So right now we are stopping some things.
Yes, we can't. We just can't do them.
Right, this isn't that we're doing everything and we're just stretching. We're actually stopping some things now. We're just not stopping the most visible things right now.
Couple of questions. If we were to scale back hours, how would that affect those who are employed? Their hours would change? Do you think they would stay, or,
I don't think it would. No, it would not. We wouldn't be reducing any staff
No,
hours.
we won't reduce staff, we just will reduce hours and not have we won't have thin a staff on certain days. So instead of having on Saturdays 2 people, we wouldn't have any, they have those people during the day, during the week. So you'd reduce hours and put those people in other days on the schedule.
I mean, our fundamental problem is when you take the bucket of hours that we have and you divide it out there, it is a stretch to keep the branches open for that number, for the number of hours we need to be open with the staffing. So we are sometimes having fewer staffers than we
need to run.
Than we really need.
So we're not talking about cutting back hours, their hours?
No, we wouldn't cut back the staff hours. We would just reallocate them to other positions and other priorities.
This isn't that part isn't even a budget issue, honestly, right now. The money is in the budget for that staff. Okay. We need to get these yellow spots filled.
Right.
And that'll help us with that. And those are budgeted in there.
Okay. My other, I guess this is sort of a comment. I'm very hesitant about closing branches. And I agree with you 100% on that. And I look at the North Avenue, the whole street, and the East End, they have the lowest numbers, circulation, etc. I don't want that to be a reason why they close, because those are extremely important. You know, the library is an extremely important resource in those communities. That we probably could possibly do a better job of, improving the numbers by figuring out what the people in those areas need. But I do not, it's scary to think those resources would leave those communities. Because you would leave tremendous amounts of people without any computer resources, information, safe spaces for children and, and even adults.
Yeah.
So I just had to put that out there.
Sure. I think we're all
we're all in
we
agreement
don't
on
want
that.
to close any of those. And like I said, my personal thinking on it is that some of the branches that if we had to close, if we didn't just say, okay, we're going to cut hours everywhere across the board, but if we said, okay, we're going to try to make a little bit of a statement that the branches that you close are probably, much as I hate to say it, some of the ones that have the highest activity, because I think that those are the ones where people are going to say, this is affecting us. The lower activity ones, it's going to affect them, but they're less likely to contact their council person. They're less likely to really do the things to get some attention on it. North Avenue is a real issue right now. I mean, you look at that and you see we've got no North Avenue staff running North Avenue right now, with the exception of the branch manager who's on vacation right now. So we have nobody in North Avenue from North Avenue.
That's why Clay's up there today.
Right, that's why Clay is there.
And we're spelling everybody through, so we're able to keep the branch open with other staff.
And that's, Sharon, when we talk about, you wouldn't lose people, I mean, it wouldn't be cutting people's hours, it's taking some of those hours from one branch.
We're moving them to other
moving them over to North
vacancies.
Avenue. Okay.
And right now, we're so short-handed in Hull Street, Broad Rock, North Avenue, East End. Staff are doing a remarkable job of keeping it open, but it's not It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable.
Janet, you had something you were...
Yeah, I don't like discussions about which branch is worthy to remain open. So wonder if, and Scott suggested this at a different meeting, and I didn't like it, but wonder if Maine was the only one open on Saturday. How does that help with the
we
situation?
analyzed that, and so that is an option. Again, all these options are, we're all in agreement that we don't want to do any of these things, and if we had everything we could, we'd do differently. But if you have to have an option, Maine would make sense. You close the branches and you make Maine open. It's centrally located. Parking is free on Saturday. Largest collection, largest building. You spell staff through this building to cover this location as it goes. And maybe you make Maine your central place that's open, and you have the branches just open 5 days a week. That's an option. It's kind of like, you know, how you put your critical resources where the most can be regained, right? So that's how you draw back when you're in crisis. So that would be an option. And it could be a short-term option that could be sustainable. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I just want to say, I'll chime in as a parent of a kid, that would make Maine the only library that our family would have access to in the entire city. Because we can't go to the library. I mean, our kid is in daycare, you know, we're working all week, regular hours, and a lot of families do. So that would be one library, 1 day a week that a lot of families with kids would be able to access. So that to me is that would be a big problem.
Another idea we discussed was maybe you shift those 5 days. So maybe you have some branches that are open Tuesday through Saturday. And you have other branches that are open Monday through Friday to try and get that Saturday in. That would be an option. It's not a great option because we're still at that situation where we not open. That 6th day really makes a difference. The other thing that's not happening right now is we're not open in the evenings, and this was brought up last month at our strategic planning thing. And you're correct, we need to try and get some branches open in the evening. I believe we could probably do that by just shifting opening times. So we would keep the same number of hours, but shift from 10 a.m. to noon and work it that way. We could probably do that across the board. And that would be a step that it shows we're doing the best we can and adapting. We can't do more, but we're doing what we can and adjusting.
What do y'all think of that option that Scott's throwing out? Some on say a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, others on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday kind of a schedule.
Well, we collect data on, circulation and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Are we collecting it hourly or daily? I mean, is it broken down? I know that's extra work.
Well, we don't break it down necessarily that way, but we know through flow and traffic where our busy times are and where our branches are slow. And you could do that. You could target a branch and say, okay, Wednesdays are slow at this location, so we're going to close Wednesdays and be open Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. That's something that's happened. Chesterfield for many years employed this. Yeah. They closed all of their branches on Thursday, and Central was open on Thursday. And I think they were open on Saturdays. So that was something Chesterfield did. So in that way,
I mean, when we talk about Maine being open, and Emily, you're right. If Maine is the only branch that is open on Saturdays, all of us got down here to Maine with no trouble. But I don't think that that's the case with the folks who are going to North Avenue, the folks who are out at the East End. I don't think they're going to come into Maine unless they have to get something. There's research that the kids got. But they're not going to come in as, let's run by the library and spend a couple hours with the kids. It's just not. I think Maine's a fantastic library and very dear to our hearts, but
well, let's talk about Tuesday through Saturday. Mm-hmm. Does that give relief? If everybody was Tuesday through Saturday?
Well, it would be 5 days, and it would just shift those 5 days and it would meet that need for Saturday. Yeah. I don't know how you break that up, though. Do you have some branches open, or we do that? So I would think you would spread it around, like not every branch would be open that schedule, so you'd have maybe half the branches open that schedule, other half open another schedule, main open 6 days a week.
It's a more confusing situation, but.
Yes.
And my feeling would be that you could cluster those so that you do have, say, either West End or Belmont open on a Saturday, but not both open. They're close enough together that it works. It's not ideal, but it works somewhat. You can
Well, I
do the
was
same with
suggesting
Dinner and
that to
North.
solve the Saturday problem, because I agree with you. For a lot of people, Saturday
It's a
is
big day.
Library Day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's why I said.
You'd like to have
can you
all the
shift
branches
it
open.
So that everybody's open on
Right,
Saturday.
right.
But how does that give you relief from the current?
Well, it shifts from 6 days to 5 days.
And that's,
Well, that's easier to cover with the limited staff, because when you do that 6 days, you've got to give somebody a day off during the week, so you can have that Saturday. So it frees up a little bit of room in your manpower load.
you open 40 hours instead of 48 hours a week, basically.
Right.
And that's 7.5 or 47.
You drop a
and half.
day.
That is one day, it's 3 FTEs per branch per week needed. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
It
it's.
makes a big difference.
Oh, yes, it's,
so,
We aren't making a decision today.
no.
So we have time to ask.
Yeah, this
the
is just
branch
throwing
which
out-
day they would.
Scott's team has
be
done a
best.
fantastic job of saying we can cover things for the next 60 days. With the, but we're gonna have to address this, see how that goes. Next month, we'll see how it's going.
Right.
And we'll have to start making a decision one way or the other, I suspect.
My job is to relay to you our challenges and share with you solutions and ideas. And I want to get in front of this because we're having problems. We have branches that we haven't been able to get open. We've had delayed openings. I don't like delayed openings. Citizens don't like it. I don't want to close branches. I don't want to have inadvertent closures. I don't, one idea we've talked about is shift back to curbside. I don't know if that does anything because in curbside, you still don't have access to those computers in the building. You still don't have access to the book collection in the building for browsing, which is what we heard throughout this whole pandemic that people needed. So
Well, and
we're in
the
this.
branches that have the lower circulation but the higher door count get completely
Right, they get
on
completely
the short end of
shut.
that. They do. They're
Right. And, this discussion we have, it's really informed by our staff. The staff have given us all this feedback and all these scenarios. I feel it's our job to talk about this and try and come up with solutions. So in the short run, we're going to try and manage, but I'm just giving this to you as could be coming. Hopefully we can avoid it.
And one way of avoiding it is the CAO opening up all
We start
regular
getting our
spots.
funding. Yeah, we start getting our positions
I mean,
moved.
some funding and the positions open and then funding. But
Right.
right now, we have money that we can't spend.
Right, because we
on
can't
people.
fill the positions.
I mean, the money is in the budget. We just are not allowed to use it. So that, in my mind, moves us a little to the political end of it.
Right.
And how late are we here? Okay,
We're
getting close. I don't think we need to do something right now. I don't think as a group we're ready to decide what to do. But I think that at next month's meeting, we need to decide how we're going to talk to our council members about this.
Yeah.
And we need to decide if someone's going to go down and talk to the CAO, whether someone's going to ask for a chance to meet with the mayor,
Right.
how we approach this. We've got a problem. We're a vital resource in the city that is taken for granted and is being, and we've seen it before. Gail, you dealt with this not that long ago, it seems.
Yeah,
That
right,
we
right.
really needed to get out and raise our profile and get people to say, well, you have people coming in and using it, but it's not just, oh, we're, cheaper than buying a book on Amazon, getting an ebook, we're free. It's all the other things the community uses us for.
Right.
Sometimes people think of the library as just books, and we're so much more than that in the city that we need to get that message across.
And if we can
and
frame,
we need to do that.
and if we can frame this issue that's our target. Imagine 7 FTEs at our branches, what we could do with that. We could expand hours, we could do programs. You could have, really amazing access. And we could do it if they just fund our positions.
If they fund our positions, but even if they say, well, okay, but we all have to be careful. We don't have the money. These are wonderful things to have. We're not even talking about not being able to do these extra things. We're really talking about at some
Basis.
point not being able to hit the basis. give them the real minimums that they're looking for. And if we just turn around at the end of the year, say, and say, okay, for the next 6 months, we have to trim back hours this much, we're gonna hear screams from city council, okay? I'd much rather go to them and say, this is something that you have to help us with, because we don't want it to become a problem for you or for us. I think we owe the council members that respect, and I think it also works better for us. So it's a win-win for everybody. We just have to know what we want to say and when we want to say it. And like I said, I've been really torn wrestling with this one since some of these numbers started coming up. And I can be convinced that Maine could work as just Saturdays. I really think Emily is right, though, and the reason I think Maine could work for Saturdays is it puts pain across the board evenly, and that has some benefit. It gets people screaming, whether you are at the east end or the west end, whether you're far south side, whether you're in the north side. We get everybody upset.
Well, and it's the option that makes kind of sense because it's the biggest collection, it's centrally located,
Right.
and so we're not picking on a neighborhood, we're not picking on a community. And unfortunately,
But can we inflict a little less pain by
Right.
doing it on a grouped area where you can still get to a local library, maybe one that's an extra mile for you, but it's not, a dramatically difficult thing to do, and still get some of the message across. I don't know. This is one that I think next month we need to be ready, and I'll try to get out in advance of next month's meeting, sort of some options that we may want to consider, and at that point take a vote on how we approach it. Does that seem like a fair?
When you talk about just having the main branch open on Saturdays, take into consideration that GRTC is talking about scaling down their service. So unless you have a car, you may not be able to get here at all.
Which, Sharon, is why when Scott and I talked about it, and he said we could do this, I said, let's consider clustering and having one branch in each main geographic area open on Saturdays. That puts us across our, sideways with our idea that we had of let's have uniform hours across the system now. So, these are all things that we as a board really going to need to say. How important is it to have access on Saturday everywhere? How important is it to at least have a group geographically? How important is it to have consistent hours everywhere? I don't know. And my opinion is no better than any of yours on that. So, we all need to think about it and be ready to really make some tough decisions, vote on it, and implement them either in October or November. Okay. Other thoughts that people want? Don't mean to take over too much, but I just want to say this is where I think we are, and that's why that was an action item on their new business for today. Emily, Gail, Ben,
I was just curious, do other city departments have the same shortfalls?
yes. Parks and Rec is undergoing the same thing with their community centers. They are, this summer they were open sometimes during the day, but not in the evenings. Now they're shifting to evening opening, but they have centers that only have 1 or 2 people in them.
They can't cut the grass.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, they-
Not a city service per se, but recycling. I don't know about you guys. Mine goes on Mondays, and it hasn't gone yet this week. So, not a big problem. I'm not screaming about it. It's not keeping me from doing anything. When we're open, when we're not open, people can't do certain things.
If you want us to discuss this more or vote on it next week, could we have like a couple schemas, like?
Yes.
Okay, because that would be
Yeah.
easier to look at and kind of.
That's what I'm going to work through with staff. We've talked about solutions. We've gotten some good ideas. We're going to try and implement some of those and see what works best and see what we can do. That's always the perspective. What can we do instead of, well, we can't do this or that'll never work. We try not to work from that perspective.
And what's the least pain?
And what can we do that's going to help that our patrons want?
Although I know Bill wants to cause some pain, which is.
I don't necessarily want
I
to cause
support
pain,
that too.
but I think the lack of failing to do that, we may not get some of this push through.
Right.
Okay. It's.
My district doesn't have a branch, so.
Okay. Well, and one of the things we really don't want is to do something that the city looks at and says, well, it worked okay. it's okay that they only have 3 of the branches open
Yeah.
on Saturdays,
Yeah.
and get used to it, okay?
If no one's screaming, that's a problem.
Right. So, so it's, like I said, this is,
But let's try and
it's
avoid
an
all of
equity
that.
and yeah. And maybe we can avoid some of it by having some, after next month, we contact council people, we put a little pressure. I'm hopeful that we might be going through a fire drill, that the CAO will see the need to release more of our positions. But a week ago, it wasn't looking as good as it looks today on that.
Well, I mean, you see.
So
what
I'm afraid we'll
positions
backslide too.
Right.
I mean, you've gotten a couple of positions approved since we spoke.
Yeah,
So,
and it's just working the process through and getting things done.
yeah, but we got to be able to fill them faster than we lose them.
That's right.
Okay. Other thoughts, anything else anyone wanted to talk about? Like I said, I wanted to throw this out as a big thing for discussion as we go forward, just so no one is blindsided. Just like we don't want to blindside council, I don't want all of you to, come in and say, oh, we can't do this, and be surprised by it. We can't do what we've been doing, so. Other topics anyone wants to cover? Scott's put out the Rising book, or actually, John will probably put them out for us, thank you.
We have Read Up coming up in October. That's going to be on October 13th. And we have Rising, that's also the same night, unfortunately. It's Kathy, Miss Rush will be presenting that virtually. Both the programs will be virtual. I think the one's at 6 and the one's at 7, so you could do back to back, so that would be good.
Okay.
And both books are great.
What's the other one?
Casey Lehman, he is the author of Heavy, and he'll be interviewed by, somebody help me. He'll be interviewed by another local poet. The Read Up team really has done a nice job getting those authors. Heavy is a great book. I really recommend you read it. And then this weekend we have the urban fiction, urban experience, and that'll be here. We have Nikki Turner will be here, and she's with, I can't recall.
She's a New York Times bestselling author.
Yeah.
Tons.
Yeah. So
What are the hours of the Saturday event?
It's 11 a.m. to 3 p.m.
So you come and go? How does it work?
when is the headliner?
So from 11 to 11:30 is a performance by Roscoe Burns. From 11:30 to 12, that time frame will be open to the public for browsing and socializing with the authors and presenters. We're going to have readings by 3 authors between 12 and 12:45. At 1 o'clock is the workshop with Nikki Turner. And then from 2 to 2:30, we'll have a workshop with April Freeman, who's a pretty amazing RPL staff member. And she's going to talk about marketing, promoting, and publishing. And then from 2:30 to 3:30, we'll have meets and greets, browsing and socializing with the authors and presenters. So we'll finish it at that time, 3. So you're open, anytime that anyone can join us would be lovely. And
These
I
authors
really
are pretty fun to
appreciate
meet.
it.
Yeah.
And then Mira Jacob, I think, is the other person who's going to be here
Nikki Turner.
not for Read Up.
Oh, yeah.
So
Okay. Mira
it's going to be
Jacob.
Casey and Mira.
Yeah.
And then they're going to have a conversation with each other and then a Q&A afterward, I think is the format.
Okay. Well, we are just past 1 o'clock. I'm going to ask, is anything else anyone would like to say? Or if not, ask for a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Okay, Janet, and a second?
Second.
Okay, Emily, and all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? No, we are